Welcome back to the Quest for Lore podcast. My name is T, joined as always by my friend Nick. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good, actually. How are you, T?
I am glad to be home.
Yeah, me too. I'm sure we'll get into that story a little later.
Yeah, we had a pretty eventful Gen Con trip, to say the least. But we'll just get right into it. This week we traveled to Gen Con. We went out to Gen Con as we said we were going to do in the past couple episodes. To play starter deck challenges and check out Gen Con, see all of the preview, I guess we could call it, like the pre-release for Lorcana that was at Gen Con, and it was exciting.
Yeah, it was a blast. I had a really good time.
I am definitely glad that we were able to both make it out there, hang out for some Lorcana action. Do you want to start off by talking about how our weekend at Gen Con started?
Sure. So I guess we'll start with Thursday morning. We decided we were gonna wake up at 4 a.m. to get Lorcana product. However, we were keeping an eye on the Discord, and when 4 a.m. rolled around, people were posting about how the front doors were still locked. And so we made the executive decision to sleep in until it was probably 5:20 or so before we left. So we got another hour and a half of sleep, and that was pretty good. We kind of got in front of a bunch of people that were waiting already. So what happened was
We did not jump the line. Please do not
we did we
crucify
did
us in the comments. We did not jump the line.
We did not jump the line. We did not jump the line. However, what we did do is when we got there at about 5:50, we didn't actually know anything about the convention center. We didn't know where the main entrance was or was supposed to be. And so we just went to the closest entrance, which turned out to be the will call line. And those doors were open all night, I'm pretty sure, because when we got there, they were open before the main doors. So we got in there and found our way to the hall that was right close to the Lorcana booth, and we got I think we're like fifth in line or something like that. So
Yeah, we
it was
were
pretty good.
really, really early up there in that line. We were like you said, we were like the fifth group in line, maybe the 10th and 11th people. But we were really early in the front of that line, but
I'll let you tell how that went.
it didn't stand. That's how it went. We were gathered up in the line. There were some stanchions to the side where people started filling in, and all the way from like 5 to 7, people were just filling in the line, went through the stanchions, then it started wrapping around the convention center and going all the way back out towards what the entrance was where people were waiting at like 2 a.m. It just started wrapping around, and line was getting huge. And people would come up and be like, "Hey, what are you guys waiting for? This is crazy." And we're like, it's Lorcana. You ain't heard of our Lord and Savior Michael Mouse? Um, but yeah, it was nuts. There was so many people there waiting in line, and for the most part, everyone was keeping to the line. But there was this giant section, which is actually where we were standing. There was no roped off area, no stanchions, and so people were trying to just like get up in and cut in, and uh, there was a section of like the doors to the main vendor hall area that was not by the line, and so people were just kind of crowding over there. But there were a lot of people in the line who were just kind of taking charge and being, "Hey, no cutting. You can't be over here. You have to respect the line, respect the people who have been here so early." And a lot of people were just like, "Oh, okay, sure, whatever." And some people would try to fight it, and they'd be like, "Oh no, there is no line. This is garbage. I'm not standing in line. Heck you, man. I'm just gonna walk in when the doors open." And so at one point, the devs of the game came out, and everyone in the line was like, "Make something happen. This is ridiculous. We've been here so long. Make it to where we can actually be a line, and this is how it'll work." They were like, "Hey, we'll see what we can do." They went back inside, and then right around, I think, 8 a.m. The doors opened at like 10, right?
Yeah, doors open to the hall at 10.
Yeah, so like 8:30 rolls around, and a Gen Con employee comes out, or a Gen Con staff member or assistant. I'm pretty sure they're not paid. I'm pretty sure they're just all volunteers. But one of the Gen Con people wearing the Gen Con shirts comes out and goes, "There is no line. We can't enforce this." And all hell broke loose. It was crazy. It is what I imagined the lines for the first video game consoles looked like. Everyone just
Yeah,
started piling on top of each other. There was not an inch of space between person to person.
it was wild. I was definitely shoulder to shoulder with everybody in that convention hall.
But there was a security guard on the other side of the red rope. So we're like up against the red rope at the very front because that's just where we were in line. We were pretty lucky. And
Mhm.
so the security guard was saying that whenever the doors did open, they were going to drop the red rope and open the doors.
Yeah,
Like, okay, cool. We're at as far of the corner as we could be. If we go in and right, like straight and right, we're just there. Like our spot was amazing if that was actually what happened. A little bit of foreshadowing there. That is not what happened.
not at all. Not even close.
Not even close. So we've got like an hour and a half left before the doors are even open, and the hall is just, or the outside the hall, the like lobby area is just slammed, shoulder to shoulder with people. There was a second floor where you could look down on it, and there were some incredible pictures where you can see me and Nick standing there amongst the crowd, and the crowd is just filling the hallway from the ropes to the back wall and then around the corner. It was nuts. There was not room for a single extra person there.
Yeah, it was intense. I mean I've never been to Gen Con because I mean I just haven't, but I can't imagine that that is what that is normally like. Do you have any insight, Tebow?
That is not what it's normally like. Last year, I was a exhibitor, so I was there at like 8 a.m. and there were maybe 10 people waiting outside at 8 a.m. So it is not even close to what it's normal. But
Good
so
grief.
the security guard said that they would drop the rope at 10 a.m. and let people in. Somewhere around 9:30, they started letting ADA people stand. So the red rope had like 5 feet between the red rope and the actual doors to the hall. At around 9:30, they started letting people who were ADA wait between the red rope and the doors. Totally
Yeah,
reasonable, makes a lot of
but
sense. Giant crowd, you don't want somebody in a wheelchair to get trampled on.
yep, that would be nice to not have people get trampled. But yeah, they made a mistake by not letting them in early. That was ridiculous. They should have let them in the exhibit hall and just like let us wait for 5 minutes. But
Yeah. So what ended up happening with that was at like 9:59, they opened the door to start letting ADA people in, like a minute early or so, and everyone behind us just starts shoving and flooding and knocks over the red rope stanchions and just starts going and trampling everyone in the front, everyone who was ADA, literally, not an exaggeration, pushing people to the ground, pushing over wheelchairs. I was there. I saw it firsthand. There are going to be people who are
yeah,
like, that didn't happen. No one was
saw it
pushing over
firsthand.
wheelchairs.
You got knocked down firsthand.
I did. I was not moving. I was not walking in, but I got pushed into the hall area. I was trying to stand still and not let people trample through over the ADA people. I was not walking of my own accord. I got pushed that 5 feet towards the door and then pushed another 3 or 4 feet into the door, through the door into the hall.
Yeah,
And then once I was in the hall, I got pushed to the ground, walked on, and then I was watching people just push over wheelchairs or scooters or moms with children. And I'm sitting there screaming at people to stop. Moms are screaming at people to stop. Like, just the whole crowd is like, chill out. You need to relax. It's just a card game, it's a Disney product. You need to relax. And there were people in the crowd being like, no, you need to relax. This card game matters more to me than food. It was just like, oh my God, it was ridiculous.
yeah. Yeah, craziest thing I've ever seen. It's what I've never gone Black Friday shopping, but I would imagine it's much worse than that. Like it was exactly what you see on TV, like the worst parts about Black Friday shopping, but way more people. It was nuts. And I mean, so T was behind me as we were getting shoved into the entrance halls, and I just remember getting shoved in, and the security people for Gen Con were just like trying to grab people and shove them backwards, and like they couldn't grab everybody because the people in front weren't moving of their own accord. They were just moving because people were shoving them. Um,
I made a joke at one point while we were standing in the line. I was like, "Oh, it's like Area 51. They can't stop us all if we just go in." And I was obviously joking, and everyone around us started laughing. But then it actually happened. Like that's just how it actually went down. It was like, "Oh, well, you can't stop us all," and just push. Like once we
yeah,
were in the hall, once I had finally stood up, there were like hundreds of people just in the hall in front of us, and I'm like, I was the 10th person in line here. How am I this far back?
yeah, it was crazy. Anyway, I was I was in the front of the line getting shoved through, and I just had my hands up, like trying to show them that I was not pushing or walking. I was just getting shoved and doing my best not to fall down. But like T said, once we got shoved into the convention hall, we found that there were people in front of us, like a huge line, and the line like wrapped back out to where we were already standing. And
But out
I
another
mean,
door.
but out another door. So we, I mean, I got back in line. I didn't know where T was because he got pushed to the ground, and I tried to text him, but there's not great service in the convention hall. But I
Especially
got
with
back
that
in
many people.
line with I don't know what place I was at that point, a couple hundred back maybe, and I was just like, you know what, this is pretty ridiculous. I'm gonna try again tomorrow, and I just got out of line and I left the Lorcana line. I was like, I'm not gonna get any today. It's just not gonna happen, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, we woke up at 5 a.m., got trampled, was so busy. There were so many people, and it didn't let up. There were just people in line, what felt like forever. So, midway through the day, people are going through, they're getting their stuff. Every time you make a purchase at the Ravensburger booth, you get one of the promo Mickeys, which was cool, nice touch. If you get through the line, ha ha ha. But there was so many people going through and so many people buying product, and we were kind of disappointed. We had a pretty bad morning for having started so early and getting nothing. But then around like 1 p.m., they killed the line. They were like, "All right, line's dead. No more product for the day." So they like set an end point. Everyone else behind that end point had to leave the line. Told nothing else. Try again tomorrow. They had like rationed the product to go for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so that they would have some on each day. And they killed the line. They were like, "Hey, no more today. Better luck tomorrow." And then once that bit of the line that was there, that was within the limits, got through, they were like, "Oh, I assume that one of two things happened. They either said, "Oh, we actually have more for today. We can keep going," or they were like, "Hey, we feel bad for everything that happened this morning. Let's put a little extra out today." Whichever one of those it was, I was the happy recipient of being in that corner of the hall whenever they restarted the line, because there was Ravensburger employees standing there and allowing people to line up again. And there's maybe 20, 30 people in line. I'm like, "Can I jump in the line?" They're like, "Yeah, go for it. I can't promise product, but you can wait in the line." I'm like, "Sure, I'll give it a shot." I text Nick, text Jacob, "Hey, I'm in the line. Let's try this again." Nick rushes over
Yep,
like as
I
soon
run
as
as
the text
fast as
goes
I
through.
can. I'm on like the other end of the convention hall in the play area, and I've got friends that are are kind of following me to get to the Dragon Shield booth because I was showing them the Gen Con exclusive sleeves that I bought, and they're like, "Oh, we want some of those. Where do we get them?" I was like, "Oh, no big deal. Follow me. I'll show you." And then T texted me, and I was like, I gotta go."
Would you say
And
that you had friends on the other side?
I would say I had friends on the other side. Yes, absolutely.
So I ended up getting through the line in like 15 minutes. Ridiculous. They went super fast. The only thing that was left was boxes. So they had no starters, no sleeves, no playmats, no binders. None of that stuff. People who went through initially and got everything were getting the corners of their badges cut to indicate that they had gotten product. But when I got to the front, they were like, the only thing we have left is boxes. I'm like, that's fine. I'll take a box. I get my box. I get my Mickey promo. I pay. I'm like, are you guys cutting badges or anything? They're like, well, we were for people who got everything, but since you didn't get like starters or anything else, we're not going to cut your badge so that you can come back through tomorrow and get more product to make up for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Which,
like, oh my goodness.
yeah, which was the worst, like the best thing to happen, but the worst thing. Because one, I don't care about all of the cool like swag, the deck boxes and the sleeves and the binders. Like I've played card games before, that stuff doesn't really excite me. I just want the product so I can play. So being able to get a box without getting your badge clipped was fantastic. It turned my entire weekend into just going to the Lorcana booth every morning.
Yeah, I mean, Nick would I would show up at 10 a.m. because I still had to do a little bit of work. So I had to be there at hall open every day to hall close. So I'm showing up at 10 a.m. I'm like, all right, I better get to work. And Nick's like, all right, I better get to this line. And he's watching anime and calling his girlfriend sitting in the line. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like moving around, doing work. I come back. Nick's like, all right, I got my box. I'm going to go sit down. And then like
Mm-hmm.
1:30 rolls around on Friday. I'm like, I wonder if the same thing's going to happen. I walk over there, 20 minutes through the line, I get a box. So like 2 p.m., 1:30 to 2 p.m. both days was the sweet spot for Thursday and Friday, where I was able to just stand there for 15, 20 minutes and I got a box both days.
Yep, it was pretty solid. Definitely a fan of that. Like the rush on Thursday and getting trampled and like having the line deform was terrible. But being able to get back into line after they had told everybody they weren't selling any more product and getting a box and then being able to do it the rest of the time at Gen Con, that was fantastic. I love that. That was awesome.
Yeah, that definitely made up for it. Because on Thursday, I was so disheartened because we were there at the front. I got trampled on. I had a twisted ankle because somebody had stepped on my foot. So my entire Thursday was awful. And I slept it off a little bit that night. And then Friday, I had a little bit of a like ankle pain left. But it was like that experience in the morning should not have almost ruined 2 whole days of Gen Con for me. So I'm
Mhm.
glad that I was able to at least get some product on Thursday and then another box on Friday. That made me feel better about the situation because I went into it thinking if I can just get myself one box, I'll be happy. And then by the end of the weekend, I ended up with 3 boxes, but I bought 2 from the Ravensburger booth and I bought a third box from Todd Anderson, Andy, who also has a Lorcana podcast. If you haven't checked it out yet, they have a channel called The Lost Boys, and I will put a link in the description for their Twitter account and their YouTube channel. You check them out as well. But I got a third box from Todd, sold it to me, $200. Happily pay the $50 you waited in line premium. So I ended up with 3 boxes, opened them all. I put together almost the entirety of the blue red control deck that I've been trying to build and play in Theorycraft with. Oh my god, sweet. I ended up with just a bunch of extra stuff. Like I've got a master set of commons, uncommons, got most of my rares and supers. I'm pretty happy with how product went this past weekend.
Yeah, same. I opened 4 boxes. I've got all my commons and uncommons. I got most of my
You went through all
rares.
4 days, right? You got through
Oh
the
yeah,
line.
yes, yes. Sunday I got through, and then like an hour later, I debated on getting back into line, but they sold out the product, which understandably it was the last day.
You got 1 box per day in the end.
Yeah, fantastic week for Lorcana. It was great.
It was so cool. We were hyping up Gen Con. We were like, I think in the last episode, we ended up saying that we were excited for Gen Con like 10 times each. I had to edit a couple of them out because it just became so redundant towards the end of the podcast. But we were truly excited for Gen Con because one, we didn't know what to expect. We thought that it might lead to a bunch of Lorcana product. And it did. We didn't know how many people would be there playing or trading or building decks or gaming, and it was a lot. There were a lot of people there for Lorcana, makes sense. It was the pre-release of the game itself, and there were a lot of people there, and it was really cool. It was definitely a great experience to be a part of, and the trip overall will be one that I never forget.
That is for sure. Oh my gosh.
So
Oh,
we both had entries into the starter deck challenge. You actually waited online whenever they first went live, and you got into all of them, correct?
yes, and I was so excited because I was like, I'm just gonna play in every single one. I want my Gencon to be Lorcana, but then they decided that you can only have one, which is fair. I understand, but it just meant that I had to change my plans a little bit and get rid of some tickets.
So you ended up giving a couple tickets to friends. That's actually how I got my ticket. Is I did not have an entry into the starter challenge. I missed out because there was only one time slot that I was going to be able to play in, which was the Friday at 8 p.m. It was 7 or 8 p.m. Friday because it was after the hall hours. That would have been the only time that I had a shot to play in the event. You had a ticket for it. You could only keep one ticket. You transferred that one to me. You transferred a couple to other friends. And sold the others for their cost to players, which is really cool. Getting more people to play in the event.
Yeah,
We had an entire podcast episode where we talked about the strengths, pros, the cons of each starter. And I think we both agreed, or we both shared the sentiment that Sapphire Steel was the least powerful, but that Red Green and Amethyst Amber were the two most powerful. I said that Ruby Emerald was better than Amethyst Amber, so they were both very strong. Which starter did you end up getting, Nick?
well, let me tell you, I sat down and was table number one, seat number one in my starter deck challenge, and I was just the whole time I was like, please don't hand me blue steel, please don't hand me blue steel, please don't hand me blue steel. The first deck they pulled out of the box and handed me blue steel.
So you ended up with Blue Steel. Uh, but we did not know. We knew that you were going to be able to open the pack and edit your deck. That was something we talked about. We did
Mhm.
not know that you were going to be able to do it with Rainbow. You could play anything you open from your pack. We also didn't know, which we know now, the packs in starter decks are seeded so that they always have a super rare or better in them.
And we know that for sure now.
Uh,
Gotcha.
not like it's not confirmed through Lorcana or through
Ravensburger.
Ravensburger, but I watched personally at least 100 starters opened this weekend. At least. Probably many, 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 many more. And unless I just bring an aura of luck to people opening booster packs, then it's all but confirmed. Because I did not see a single pack that was just double rare nothing. I saw some that were double rare, but then the foil wasn't enchanted. I'll
Yeah.
I'll count that.
Yeah, that's kind of a little better anyway.
Yeah, but every other pack was either a super, a legendary, a super and a legendary, two legendaries, two supers, some form of there is a super or better in the pack. And that was true for yours, that was true for mine, that was true for Corey's, that was true for Joel's. Everyone that we had there playing, it was true for them as well. So you opened your pack and it was pretty nuts. It might have redeemed Sapphire Steel.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was good. I didn't see the cards, which means that they're not as good as if you get to play them. But I opened a Be Prepared and the Steel Legend. Uh, what is her name? Why can't I think of her name right now? She's a 6 mana 5/5 that when she challenges something, you gain 2 lore.
Hey Ka.
Take ha. Yeah, yeah. So
You
that
take
was a pretty
you take
solid
on the
pick.
lore.
I take on the lore, exactly. Well, round one I had a buy in my challenge,
Which
so
is
that was
which is
pretty
really
good.
funny.
Yeah, pretty solid. Good start.
Man, you played the
Round
Sapphire Steel Mirror. That's crazy.
yeah, right. Round two I played against purple yellow. Honestly, I got dumpstered. I feel like I did what I could with Sapphire Steel. I didn't see any of my cool new bombs like out of the pack. I just saw like the Maleficent and the Mufasa that you ramp into, but it just wasn't enough for the go wide strategy that deck does. So I got dumpstered there, and it was a little unfortunate. So that already put me out of top 8. But round 3, I played against the red green deck, and won that match. That wasn't too terribly bad. That deck is a little slower and doesn't go as wide, so I felt like the matchup was fine.
I sit down for mine, and we're about to get handed decks. Person across from me is a mom, brought her whole family to Gencon, and somebody there was in the same boat as you, where they had just signed up for every event, but instead of like going online in advance and passing out tickets, they wanted to find someone there to just give them to. And so the mom, the dad, and all the children sitting there, like by the Lorcana area, checking it out. They knew that the game existed, but wanted to learn more about it. So the dude gave them each, everyone in the family, kids, mom, and dad, a learn to play demo and a starter deck challenge. So their whole family got to play in learn to play, figure out how to play, then go play the starter deck challenge, and then they got to go home with some product to keep playing at home, which is super cool. I wish I knew who did that, because A+ community member right there. But
yeah, absolutely agree.
We're sitting there and we're talking about Lorcana. She had just finished her starter demo that morning or whatever, or the day before. I'm not 100% sure, but we're talking about it. Super excited. I'm super excited for her. Sitting there, getting ready to start. They hand out the decks. I handed Amethyst Amber. She handed Ruby Emerald. Very cool. She got a solid deck. I got a solid deck. I look to my left. The two people to my left, both Sapphire Steel. I look to my right. The two people to my right, both Sapphire Steel. I have the biggest sigh of relief that I have dodged this massive bullet, right?
You were telling me about this.
It felt like I was on a mountain and everything around me was the trenches around the mountain. But she ended up opening a legendary in her pack, kind of trying to explain to her how good a legendary was. And it seemed like it kind of clicked because she was like, oh, that's super cool. Awesome. And it was Bell. So it's like one of the better legendaries. I opened my pack. I get Super Teika and Rare Maui. So very good bombs for the hard matchups for that deck. I'm like, okay, this could be a 3-0. Let's try it. Run it. Round 1, play against Sapphire Steel. Pretty easy. Run them over. Round 2, I play a mirror. Everything looks bad, but I managed to come back off of a Friends on the Other Side, off of a Maleficent. Come back into the game, win that one. Very nice. I actually won that one in time in game 3, because in they were doing it with 5 turns, like magic rules, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then highest lore at the end of that wins.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to get that last couple lore I needed at the end and win in time. Then round 3, I sit down and I go, hi, my name's T. Nice to meet you. Guy goes, oh, I know who you are. I'm like, oh? He goes, yeah, I work with Jake. Like, oh, very cool. So we can have more of a casual game. Like, obviously we're both trying to win still, but there's like a level of casual conversation that you can have in a game when you're playing against a friend or someone who is friendly, rather than like playing for the 3-0. You're like mind in intense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're already having some fun banter, fun small talk, and I go, you open anything spicy that's gonna whoop me? And he goes, I guess you'll have to see. And I go, oh no, I'm in danger. We start playing. It's an Amethyst Amber mirror. We're going back and forth as the matchup goes. And then he plays Legendary Elsa and taps 2 of my things and takes this major tempo swing. And I'm like, wow, that's really good. So I'm able to clear out most of his board eventually, except the Elsa. And I have some swings where I can hit the Elsa for a little bit now and then more later to kill it. So I do that and I pass. And he goes, Legendary Rapunzel, remove 3 counters from Elsa, draw 3. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm getting
Excuse me?
double legendaried? And his Rapunzel's foil? What's going on here? I'm so dead. And so obviously he demolishes me game 1. We keep playing. In game 2, there's a point where I am like I'm coming back, and then he demolishes me game 2, and I'm like, that's it. I wa-
I watched the game too. He did you so dirty. It was so bad. I walked over and T was struggling against a board that was way bigger than his. But then I came back and suddenly T had I think two or three things on board. Um,
his board was empty, and
and
it
his
felt
board
like
was
I
empty.
felt like I was back.
Yeah, it looked like you were solidly in the lead, and I was like, oh, he's got this. And the guy top decks Hades to, or I guess he had one thing because
He had
he,
played a thing the turn before, but it was untapped. And
yeah,
then
okay.
he
So he,
draws for turn with 8 lore in play, or 8 ink in play. He runs his 3/4 into my 3/3. I'm like, okay, I expected that. I'm just gonna run my Olaf into it next turn. And then he goes, Hades, pick up Rapunzel. I'm like, oh no. And he plays the Rapunzel, heals it for 3 and draws 3. And then the
yeah,
next turn he goes friends on the other side into friends on the other side. I'm like, I'm so dead again.
yeah, it was so bad.
It was so brutal. It felt like I was but a chili dog and Guy Fieri had taken me to Flavortown.
I've never heard that expression used in that way before, but okay.
You know, some days you're the pigeon and some days you're the statue.
Yeah,
And on
you were
that
the statue
on
that
that day
day.
I was the statue.
Unfortunate, but that's how she goes.
So me and Nick both went 2-1. Corey went 2-1. Our friend Joel did not go 2-1. He had a draw round 1, like in time. It was even. They drew round 1, and then he won round 2, won round 3, and made it into top 8 on breakers because he had a draw, which was sick because that meant he qualified for the Sunday event.
Mhm.
So we were at least able to put one person into the Sunday event. And Nick, what deck did Joel get?
He got red green.
The best deck, not close, says T. Tebow. So the one person who got through got the deck I said was the best. I'm just saying.
It's
There might be something
hey,
there.
it's meant to be.
So we had a very good weekend. Had a lot of fun with the event. Got a bunch of product. Had a good time. Got some cool board games. Met some cool people. Did a bunch of interesting stuff for work. Joel got into top 8. We had a great time hanging out with Joel. I haven't seen him in years. And then finally time to go home.
I don't want to go home again.
Oh, but we have to, Nick. We can't stay in Indianapolis.
We should have.
We decided that we were going to leave no later than 9 a.m., but
Yep.
that did not happen. We both woke up at like 8:50, or you woke up at like 8:50, checked your
Yeah.
phone. You're like, I don't feel great. Let's sleep it a little bit longer or relax a bit or whatever it was. You ended up staying in bed for another like 15-20 minutes.
Yeah. Yep. Had a
Feeling
case of the con crud and
feeling the con
fun
crud
to.
coming on,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So we ended up staying a little bit longer. We left around 9:30, 9:40, somewhere around there. We're headed out. We decided to go get some breakfast. Oh, no, we left at exactly 10.
Did we?
No, it was 9:30. It was 9:30.
Okay.
Because I was like, we have to stop somewhere before 10 to get breakfast food if we're going to get breakfast from somewhere.
I'll be honest. I don't remember what time we left, and I don't want to remember what time we left.
I remember that we were waking up and leaving around 9, and so I couldn't grab hotel breakfast because it stopped at 9. But then we were leaving around 9:30 and wanted to get somewhere where we could get breakfast before 10. That's what it was. So we left around 9:30 when we start driving and we get to this town outside of Indianapolis with gas stations and restaurants. And so we stop at this gas station, fill up the tank, and go to the McDonald's next door. We go to the McDonald's, get breakfast, get back to the car, and we start driving. It's sprinkling and starts raining as we're leaving the McDonald's. I
Yep.
am in the passenger seat eating my sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddle, having a great time.
Great time.
Great time. We get back on the highway, and then we are
It's
not having a great time.
yeah, it starts pouring. We're still going. I mean, we're like 20 minutes outside. maybe, but it is pouring. Like the roadway is soaked. There's so much water on the road. Um, and I guess I'll tell the story from here. So we are insanely lucky, but basically we're driving along, not speeding, not going fast, kind of keeping up with traffic. And I guess we decide to hit a puddle of water or something because oh my god, we hydroplaned so hard. I've never been in a wreck before in my life. I don't know how that all goes down, but boy, howdy, did I learn quick because we hydroplaned off the road into the ditch over a whole lot of rocks and
Through a reed field. It wasn't even
through
like
through a refield, some small trees, no big deal, you know.
it wasn't even a ditch where the ditch is like flush with the road. It was one of those ditches where it's got a big drop off. So we like slam off the road and then through the rocks and through the reeds and then into the trees.
Yeah, it was not a good experience. I never want to do it again. Anyway, my car is totaled.
The airbags went
Thankfully,
off.
yeah, thankfully we are both okay. It could have been so much worse. We could have flipped, we could have ran into somebody else, but we just went down a very steep ditch, over a bunch of rocks, and into some reeds and trees. Small trees, mind you, so we just kind of bowled them over. Thankfully, we didn't get hurt. But it was a very long day after that.
We
Let me
went
tell
all the way
you.
from the left lane through the right lane into the right ditch. And it
Yeah,
could
so
have
we're
gone much worse at any point if there was like any one thing was different. Like there was nobody in the right lane next to us. So we just went like directly off the road. If we were 5 feet ahead, we would have hit the trees head on and probably died maybe. We went into the ditch at like the right place where the car got wrecked, but we did not. Like so many things went right. The airbags, the side ones went off, so we didn't get like slammed against the sides of the car and stuff.
yeah, yeah,
And we
it
were both
was
wearing our seatbelts.
yeah, yeah. Obviously, we were. If we hadn't have been wearing our seatbelts, oh man, yeah, it would not have been okay.
I would have shown that windshield who's boss if I was, and then it would have showed me
Something
who's
like that.
boss.
Yeah,
Sent me to Michael.
such a Michael. It's funny. Well, I mean, it's not funny, but we have to laugh at it because if we don't, then it's just really sad and upsetting. And I still haven't gotten over the fact that I need to buy a new car now because that car only had 98,000 miles on it, and it was almost paid off. It had 2,000 more dollars left on it, or somewhere around there, 2K, 1,500, something like that. And then I decided to put it in a ditch and leave it in Indianapolis. So, yep,
But
I look forward to another car payment.
you look forward to another car payment, and you've earned yourself the new title that I might have to edit into your card here on the podcast: worst
Oh
chauffeur.
boy. Yeah, which is crazy because we've been around the country together and I mean, I've never been in a wreck before. Felt like I was a pretty good chauffeur, but
you
not
were a
anymore.
great chauffeur for every other trip that we've been on. Because you're right, me and you have gone to we've traveled a lot. Like we did a 30-hour car ride to Vegas and to the Grand Canyon and to Zion National, and then 30 hours back the other way through Omaha. And like we've traveled so much, and this
Hmm.
was the one time.
Yep.
It was bound to happen eventually, but now that means
I guess.
we've got another road trip saved up before it happens again.
I want to have many road trips before it happens again. Thank you.
Fine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We're not going to repeat that.
we were in the ditch and like getting everything squared up, calling people, and I called 911. No, and they're like, "Oh, somebody already called in. First responders are on the way." Firefighters show up to the car and pull me out of the car. Hey,
Not whoa, 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 hold on. They don't pull him
oh
physically
yeah,
out of the
yeah,
car.
no, no,
Like you,
no,
you can get
yeah,
out of
yeah.
the car. They just show up and you're still sitting in the car.
They ask me to step out of the car. Sorry, that's you're right. I am not stuck in the car. They ask me to step out of the car, and so I step out of the car, and it's pouring. I wear sandals whenever we're traveling to be comfortable. So I'm in the car with my suitcase behind me. I'm like, can I put on a jacket and shoes and socks and stuff? They're like, yeah, go for it. So I did. I got my jacket out. I put on shoes and socks and stepped out. And I'm glad I did because we ended up standing out there for like 30 or 40 minutes in the pouring rain. Sheriff's deputies show up. Wrecker shows up, pulls the vehicle out. The the sheriff's deputies take us to back to that McDonald's that we were at. We book a rental car at the Indianapolis airport.
That was stressful, by the way, because that was like the third or fourth rental car place I called, and everyone before that was like, "We don't do one ways." It's like, well, this sucks because I don't want to be in Indianapolis a whole other night.
Also,
Um,
you said it's kind of crazy how you can just like wreck a car and then go rent another one.
yeah,
You're
yeah, that
right.
still blows my mind. Like, yeah, I just threw this car off the side of the road. Can you give me another one? Nothing wrong with that.
And they did. I mean, thankfully you're there because like you have to be 25 to rent a car. I'm only
Yeah.
23. I can't rent a car.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, thankfully I was there. I
So
mean,
like
maybe if I wasn't there, we wouldn't have wrecked. So I don't know how this thankfully thing works. I don't know if that's the word I want to use.
we'll take the good with the bad.
Yeah, yeah, I suppose so.
But yeah,
I also made another comment about how you can get more hurt from the opening day of Gen Con Lorcana than you can in a car crash.
because I did sustain more injuries from Gen Con than I did from the car crash. The only thing that was like the only injury I had from the car crash was I had a giant red welt across my shoulder and my chest and down through my stomach where the seatbelt was. It didn't hurt, but it was just a giant red mark, and it's mostly gone now. But that was it. That was the only damage to me. And then you had the same thing, right? You had like a little seatbelt mark, and then
I
that was
had
it.
the tiniest seatbelt mark on my forearm, which is already gone and was like very tiny, like super minuscule. I don't even know how to describe it. It was so small.
Yeah, mine was not so small, but it's almost all gone by now. And it didn't hurt. It wasn't like even tender in that area like I expected it to be. I woke up the next morning and I was ready to like stand up and keel over. Like I thought I was going to be in so much pain the next morning once everything wore off, like once the shock had really worn off and the situation set in. It wasn't like that. I just was not in pain. There was no problems from the crash. I felt fine, and I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, yeah. Super thankful that we didn't get hurt at all. Miraculous. I have no idea, but
We went and got
yeah.
all the stuff out of the car. Once we got the rental car, we went and picked up all of the rest of our stuff out of the car from the lot where it got towed to. We hit the road again, and we got home at a pretty reasonable time still. I think we got home around like 10, maybe a little before that.
A little before that, yeah, I think.
Yeah, like 9:30. So our
Yeah.
all-in journey ended up being about 12 hours instead of 6. So, I mean, I'll take it. It could have been much worse. We could have died. We could have Oh man, what's worse than dying? Being stuck in Indy for another day?
Oh, maybe. Yeah,
I,
being stuck in any indie without having any Lorcana product to buy.
if I died in that car crash, I can tell you with 100% certainty that if hell is real, my hell loop would have been waiting in the Gen Con Lorcana line. I get to the front, they tell me that they're out of product, and to go to the back of the line. And that's my hell loop. I go to the back of the line.
That's funny.
With 100% certainty, that's what my hell loop would be. But
Yeah.
that car is has hit the reduce reuse ikiki status.
Reduce, reuse, ikiki.
But yeah, it was an exciting trip. We've got some decks brewed. I put together blue red control,
I
put
put
together
together purple, yellow songs.
purple yellow songs, and you're a big fat cheater. We
I am
found
a
out.
big fat cheater. I'm a big dum dum.
We played
I
so
was
many
no, no,
games.
it's my story. I get to tell it. I brewed this sick purple yellow song deck, and I was so excited about it. I was like, man, this deck is so cool. We were playtesting it, and I went 3-3 against him on his control deck. And I get home, and my mom's worried about me, obviously, because I just got in a car crash. So like I stop in Eldon, which is where they live, and stopped with them for the night. And I was showing my mom the game because she loves Disney and she's never really been into card games, but she knows I play them. And I was showing her how all of the cards work, and like there's even songs in the game. And I was like, there's this song and this song and this song. And then I get to the one, I think it's called You Have Forgotten Me, that makes each opponent discard 2 cards. And I was like, and this one. And then my head went, what song is that? Like, I'm a Disney nerd. I love Disney. I know most of the songs. And I was like, I don't know what song that is. Turns out it's not a song. And turns out Sebastian, the singer for Two Drop, can't sing it because it's not a song. And so we were playing like that the other night. It was, what? Let me tell you, it was pretty good when you can sing it on turn 3.
You won so many games because you were just like, I'll play Ariel, find You Have Forgotten Me, sing it with Sebastian. I'm like, oh my god, this deck is nuts. There's so much value. You're drawing a million cards, making me discard a million cards. I just can't win so many of these games when you hit your curve. Turns out there was no curve and you're a cheater.
In fairness, I still draw a lot of cards. The deck is pretty good still without singing that card, but yeah, it's much better when you can.
But that was a lot of fun. I mean, even with that card being a song, I still felt like it was pretty even, like 2 decks, because we went 3-3. It seemed
Yeah.
pretty fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got a lot to go over with putting some fun brews together and getting some games jammed, and hopefully we can record some of that and then throw it up here on the channel. And then there'll be more content for you guys to look forward to with like deck brewing or gameplay or card discussion and breakdown. I'm really excited for what the future of this channel holds now that we actually have like a drive. Like we had a drive before, but now we have way more drive because we've got physical cards in our hands, and it's so exciting to flip through the cards. I've spent so much time today being a little gremlin flipping through the cards and going, fun decks to brew. So
that's funny. I have been very busy, as you can imagine, with everything that comes along with wrecking your car and dealing with insurance. But I mean, I've got ideas in my head. I'm super excited to brew some more with the song deck. I think that I've got it in a good spot, but I want to test some other colors with it. But we'll just have to wait and see how that all pans out.
and find it here on the channel, isn't that right?
Absolutely. It'll be right here.
Be right here. I think that'll wrap it up for today's episode of the Quest for Lore podcast. This is the post Gencon podcast. Next week or the week after, we'll have one for you that will talk about deck brewing ideas and maybe rating some of the cards. I don't have an official plan out yet for the next podcast, but it'll be something exciting related to deck building and not just a giant storytelling podcast.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll wrap it up there. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on the video. Subscribe to the channel. It helps us with the YouTube algorithm. Make sure that people who are looking for content like this will find content like this. So we would definitely appreciate it if you drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It's 100% free and helps us out a lot. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next pod. I am T. This is Nick. We are signing off.
Have a good one, guys. Thanks for watching.
Bye. Bye.